You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
Welcome to Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with your host, Rosalind Sedacca. Join Rosalind each week on a journey toward overcoming life's many challenges to achieve peace, empowerment, and positive transformation. It's time to relax, unwind, and transform your life with Rosalind Sedacca.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is Rosalind Sedacca, and you're listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network, and our show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. And as you know, I'm the founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, and every week we talk about topics that are of interest to people who are contemplating divorce, going through divorce, having been divorced, and are moving on in their life into dating and relationships. And today I have a special guest for you that I know will be of great value in your life, and her name is Riana Milne, and our topic is going to be healing from love trauma. So let me tell you a bit about Riana, because she's a certified global life and love coach, certified clinical trauma and addictions professional, certified mindfulness coach, #1 best-selling author, the host of her own podcast called Lessons in Life and Love, an educational speaker, a certified mindset coach, and a licensed mental health counselor for over 20 years living in Palm Beach County, Florida. So obviously this is a lady who knows what she's talking about, and we're really excited to have her with us. Welcome, Riana.
Hi, Rosalind. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure. You talk about healing from love trauma, and you talk about early childhood trauma experiences, and I wanted you to start by giving us a listing of what those traumatic experiences are, because very few of us get away unscathed from childhood without touching on some of these experiences, right?
That's true. My research has showed that I did research for over 2 years on this topic when love trauma happened to me, and I needed some answers, and I couldn't find them. So I did the research, and they said 90% of people will have at least 1 to 3 of these items on this 10-point list. And with my work in New Jersey, primarily, I worked with people of trauma of all different diverse populations and ages in the schools from kindergarten through college. I was the SAC counselor, student assistance counselor, dealing with the emotionally upset kids. I worked at the hospital center with those aged 6 to 19. I worked in an adolescent drug and rehab center with women of the prison population who ended up there, and then in drug court afterwards. So all the people I worked with had come from traumatic home situations. And then looking at my psychotherapy and coaching client both that came in with all these relationship issues, I dug deep into what were the traumas that they experienced as young children. So as I go over this list with your listeners, I want them to understand this is not about blaming our parents at this stage of our life, and it's not anything to feel ashamed about either. Because as a young person, we're just a product of our environment. We can't really change anything. We're all innocent children, and unfortunately, our upbringing was not always ideal. So going into them, if you want to keep a list, you could keep a list saying me, meaning yourself. Second column would be a partner you remember struggling with, so probably the ex. And the third one would be parents, and you could put mom and dad as I go through the list if it applies to them as well, because the research shows that childhood trauma goes through at least 3 generations. So this should be an eye-opener as far as what you experience and what you remember you're experiencing. So the first one is addiction. If any of your caregivers had any addiction, there are 12 of them that I named. It's drugs, alcohol, sex, meaning you knew your partner, your parent was a cheater, porn, eating, hoarding, spending, gambling, gaming, TV watching, workaholism, and the last one is addicted to social media. So that's addiction. The second one is verbal. So watching your parents fighting, yelling, screaming all the time, or they yelled at you. This also includes verbal put-downs, making you feel not good enough, or even giving you the silent treatment, not talking to you for hours or days. The verbal put-downs could be something you don't look good in that, you look fat, change your clothes, or just anything else that's slight, not hearing the word, I love you, anything like that. So verbal is quite intricate when I talk to somebody. There's a lot of verbal slight. Okay, the third one is emotional abuse or neglect. Fourth one is being physically abused or beaten in any way, sexual rape or molestation, and those could have occurred inside or outside of the home. The next trauma is around abandonment, and I named two types. There's false and no false abandonment. No false abandonment would be a parent that happened to die early, if a parent had to go off and serve at war, or the parent was gone a lot traveling to support the family. That's no false because this is how they had to make a living, but they were away much of the time. A false abandonment would be a parent never involved in your life or involved at an earlier stage. The couple broke up and then they're rarely involved with your life. And the other one could be an emotional type of abandonment, meaning the parent was there or even there during custody visitation, but they rarely engage with the child. Now, I know most of your listeners have gone through divorce and you want to keep an eye on your kids. If there is this custody visitation, is there good quality time going on between the parents and the children? It's super important for their emotional well-being. The next one is if they were adopted, part of foster care, or had to go live in another person's home because you couldn't support them in your home. Trauma number 7 is one of the most common, the one that most relate to, and that's called personal trauma. That's if you ever remember feeling different or not good enough. You could have been an overweight child or skinny and gawky and maybe called the nerd at school. You didn't fit in with a popular crowd. You might have had a medical condition. You might have been labeled ADHD and had to go to special classes that you hate being pulled out of the normal classroom. You might have been of a racial minority that you didn't feel like you fit in, or you might have been someone coming out as LGBTQ and did not feel accepted by your peers. So there's so many reasons that trauma number 7 is such a big one. Trauma number 8 is sibling trauma, and this is if your sibling was born with a medical condition and commanded more of mom's and dad's time, or they bullied you, or most commonly, they were perceived by you to be the golden child, the favored one by mom and dad. They might have been the star athlete, more handsome or beautiful, or just a better student, and you were always compared to them. Trauma number 9 actually has 2 parts because there are more than 10 traumas, but I only talk about the top most popular, the top 10, but I had to bring one down from the later list because it's become so rampant, and that is community trauma. So that involves our mass shootings in the community, our school shootings, any community greatly impacted by Mother Nature events, storms, floods, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, mudslides. With our changing global weather patterns, this has become so rampant now. And the other part of number 9 is family trauma. That's if a parent was ever incarcerated, if you grew up in a dangerous neighborhood. Remember a lot of messages around lack, like we don't have enough money to pay the bills. So during this time of coronavirus, be very careful of the messages your kids might be hearing. This might be scary for you, but can you imagine children thinking that you're going to lose your home and what are we going to do? Mom doesn't have any money. Very scary time. This also could be military families that have to move every 2 to 4 years, putting the child in different schools. I mean, right now the children are pulled out of school. They can't see their friends. They can't have their proms or graduation parties. This is a very sad and scary time for the kids. So they're going to need extra love and support from you and open and honest communication about what's going on in our world. But I wouldn't overdo it with news reports on television because those are very scary reports. I wouldn't have your kids able to listen to those. And the last one is mental health issues in mom or dad. Those of us in the baby boomer generation, our parents didn't go to counseling, so we kind of have to guess if they had some issues. The 2 most difficult for children to navigate is borderline and bipolar. So simply explained, bipolar is manic depressive. So a manic phase could be a gambling spree, an eating binge, a spending spree. Depression can come out actually in anger, exhaustion, or checking out emotionally. And borderline, I think, is the most difficult. That fast trigger anger, extreme moodiness. You never know what you're going to get. But when the parent's good, when they're great, they're good. And when they're bad, they're horrid. So the child is always left with a feeling of high anxiety, walking on eggshells, a lot of people pleasing to please that difficult or angry parent. So Rosalind, those are the top 10.
And what a top 10 they are. Thank you so much. I think most everyone on the planet can relate in some ways, and of course it gets much more dramatic when you're checking off several on this list at one time, but unfortunately that's our given. And fortunately we have someone like you who could help us cope and find ways of moving ahead in our lives to find more peace and harmony. So my question now is, can you give us some ideas about, with these destructive patterns, what destructive patterns emerge in a love relationship if someone has some of these past unhealed childhood traumas and then moves into a relationship?
It's very important that you do get these healed before trying to be in a relationship. Being that your audience is from divorce, I think it's interesting for them to know if there's any that they personally have that's unhealed, as well as their ex-partner. So some of the dynamics that come out, there's 24 combinations, so I'll share just a few. Jealousy and control, a lack of trust, that comes from trauma number 7, not feeling good enough, not feeling like you measure up. Usually in combination with trauma 2, those verbal messages that you never got, those accolades of great job, I'm proud of you. Instead, you heard derogatory messages. So that control jealousy combination comes from there. Perfectionism comes from needing to be perfect as possible to please your parents, just to get love or accolades. Very often, my clients are usually very successful in business but struggle in love. And they can't figure out, why did I get the business part right and I can't get love right? Well, the thing is, they might have found joy and accolades and some love actually from their teachers in school. So when they performed well and was perfect on their papers and in school, they learned that success feels good. It was the one thing that was in a healthy way feeding their ego, and we all need our egos filled in a healthy way to have self-esteem and confidence. So those that were successful in high school and middle school usually go on to be successful in the business world, but then they never had the love portion healed yet. So that's perfectionism. Another big one for women is people pleasing. They can't say no. They overdo for others. This usually makes them very tired, resentful, angry. Unconsciously, it's used to feel love or raise self-esteem, and it's a pattern that they learned while they were young to keep peace in the home or to keep that difficult, negative, angry parent at bay so they wouldn't be yelling and screaming at them. All these have become usually coping mechanisms, and then they come out later. Another one is impulsivity. If your partner was very impulsive, it's like, I want that sports car, so I'm just going to buy it. Impulses usually destroy relationships. They hurt your partner. It's very selfish, but usually these people grow up not being given anything, and they just grow up with a sense of entitlement. I want this. I should be able to have it now. That's where impulsivity comes from. It's one of the riskiest behavioral patterns that not only can get them in trouble, but also their partner in trouble. Abandonment issues, that can cause clinginess, anxiety when your partner's gone, reaching out to get affirmations from others, seeking attention from others. But unhealed abandonment issue leads to usually love addiction and codependency. The relationships look like, consciously you're saying, this partner's not good for me. I got to leave them. But you keep going back. The research shows the going back, the rekindling of the relationship is an average of 7 times. Wow. Because it feels so empty to be alone and not loved, so scary, that they stay with a toxic partner longer due to abandonment issues. So those are just a few of the combinations.
Yes, just a few. Well, we have to stop here for a quick break, and then we'll be right back. This is Rosalind Sedacca with Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network.
Do you enjoy stirring and realistic fiction? Check out author and veteran Paul Holbert's work at literaryvet.net for intriguing books that will keep you turning pages. Paul uses his experiences to create novels that are true to life, such as his latest, Term Limits, a political crime thriller fitting for today's time and events. Go to literaryvet.net, a read you won't want to miss.
Okay, we're back, and this is Rosalind Sedacca. You're listening to Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network, and we've been listening to Riana Milne, who is sharing with us a wealth of information about healing from love trauma. Thank you so much, Riana. This has been such interesting information, and I want to make sure we are in the last part of our program able to give people some insights about what they can do to help heal their own trauma.
Sure. Well, the good news is, and I want to start with this, there is light at the end of this rainbow. You can heal this. You can move beyond it. You can break the generational pull. If somebody does not do something to heal their unconscious, unhealed traumas, it will continue to go through the generations. So I kind of ask you parents, and I'm a parent too, that my daughter had, a toxic father who's still a pretty toxic individual. You want to make sure your kids grow up as emotionally healthy as possible, and you can be the empowered parent. You can teach your kids what I call the mindset for success skills, which are really important. Some of them are mentioned in my 2 books, Live in Love, Beyond Your Dreams. If you are single and about to go out date, there are 24 questions you need to know to ask that date. See their level of childhood traumas that have not been healed. Knowledge is definitely power, so you have to become very educated, but it begins with healing yourself first. And I say to all my clients, you have to be a successful single before you go out there to date. So when I work with clients, it's 50% life coaching, 50% love coaching, and the life coaching is healing the trauma. We start right from there, identifying any of your traumas, making sure they heal them, because you don't want to go back and repeat the pattern, which we call same person, different face. So in other words, attracting the toxic or narcissistic sociopathic partner. And that's what happens 95% of the time. And then I usually see that woman after the second, third, or fourth partner, and they're like, what am I doing wrong? And it's a very frustrating stage to be in. And I know because it happened to me. But there's much to learn. I mean, my notebook's 150 pages based on research, and I work with clients from 4 to 6 months. So we have to really break it down, see what's showing up for you. What did your partner have? Then I have to look at the combinations of what brought you together. And then the education around dating begins. The exact skills you need to attract someone who's emotionally healthy, evolve a conscious partner. Because 2 conscious partners, and really from the research is saying 2 faith-based partners who are consciously living, meaning they think about everything they do, say, write, how they act before they do it. So consciously aware is very important. You always have your partner in mind. Some of the things of what the emotionally healthy relationship look like. I have a saying, it's you and me against the world, meaning you have to put your partner first, not the children. People that are putting their children first all the time, the relationship tends to just dwindle and melt away. When they're older, one of those partners usually say, I'm not in love anymore, I'm moving on. So you have to put your partner first, and if you do that, then that keeps the family happy and together. You have to have a balance too. Yeah. Between you, me, and us, meaning your partner has, it's like an equilateral triangle. Partner has their things, you have your things, your work, your hobby, your routine, and then that third leg has to be equally long. The time invested in the partnership has to be equally long. For singles, I say be what you want to attract. Be emotionally healthy. If you want a financially secure partner, do what that takes to be financially secure. So you want to attract someone who's very similar to you, that has their life and their head together. Very important.
Well said. And before you move ahead, I want to make sure we give you time to share with our listeners how they can find you and what you have for them.
Sure. The best place to find me is my website, rianamilne.com, and there I have free book chapter downloads of Love Beyond Your Dream, Break Free Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve. That's my #1 bestseller. And the sister book is all about positive mindset for success. That's called Live Beyond Your Dreams, From Fear and Doubt to Personal Power, Purpose, and Success. I also have free love tests there. There's 4 of them. I would take them all and see what you learned about yourself and your ex-partner, and as well as a chance to meet with me for a private 1-hour session. The ebook is also there too, that goes more into the childhood trauma dynamic. And Lessons in Life and Love, my podcast podcast releases every week on Fridays. And I think I'm 84 shows in right now. You get a lot of information there as well as on my YouTube channel, Riana Milne.
So RianaMilne.com is the place to go to get all of this wonderful information, and you are a wealth of information. Since we only have a few minutes left, I'm hoping you could give us some takeaways to keep in mind, the most important things you want us to know.
Love yourself first. Do what it takes to re-raise your confidence and self-esteem, and get educated in dating. Just don't go out there and fall in love due to chemistry. It's the worst way that you can fall in love. You really need to get educated. Make sure that you're really consciously aware when you're dating. Don't accept any cheap drama or negativity. The dating world is competitive. You have to know what to do. There is a 5-second rule. When you show up, people decide yes or no in 5 seconds if they want to date you the second time. You really want to know and feel very positive about your dating skills. Meditation is very important to help you feel more balanced, proven in quantum physics and science to lessen your anxiety, depression, cortisol levels, and blood pressure, and increase dopamine and serotonin levels of the brain, which are your happy chemicals. So take care of yourself, self-love, good vitamins, exercise, mindset work with meditation.
It sounds like you're reminding everyone that a good life is based on good inner work. Everything starts within. So if you could just give us a last sentence or two about that, I think that would be a fabulous way to remind us about what's really most important in our relationship is with ourselves.
That's correct. Life is short. If anything, this whole virus has taught us, live large. Live your life now. Don't wait. You are worth it. You are worth the investment of feeling wonderful about yourself. Now is the time to create that life you really do desire and to have the love you deserve. Take the time you need. Don't rush back out there and go date because you're feeling lonely. Get yourself self-empowered first, because I hate to say it, sociopaths, 6 out of 25 are sociopaths in the dating world, and they can smell a mile away someone that's weak and lonely and desperate to feel loved and some attention. So you want to really be self-empowered and confident and educated about what is a healthy partner, and exactly the opposite. What does the sociopath look like? How will you know them? How will you know that narcissist on the first or second date? That's what I'm talking about, educational empowerment and having the psychological edge to succeed in dating. Very important.
It certainly is, and you've given us so much to think about. This was a wonderful show. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. We've been listening to Riana Milne, and if you go to RianaMilne.com, you'll find all the information about her books, her courses, her programs, and personal coaching with her. So thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you, Rosalind, for having me. I really appreciate the time.
And you've been listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. This is Rosalind Sedacca, founder of the Child-Centered Divorce Network, and you could find all the information on my books, courses, programs, and coaching services at childcentereddivorce.com. And I'm saying goodbye from Divorce Dating and Empowered Living. Till next time.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio Channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.